Hello balancers, and welcome back to our very first episode of 2023. I hope you've all had an amazing rest, spent some time with family and friends, and really had the time and opportunity to reset yourselves for the new year. I know how beneficial this time can be for pouring back into our sense of balance, our sense of groundedness. So I hope you've really enjoyed this time. And it's also such a great time of year because a lot of us are in total reflective mode, thinking about what we want for the year ahead, planning, and really just being critical of how we're spending our time. Now, in today's episode, I want to offer you 5 powerful mindset shifts that you're going to need for success in 2023. Of course, success is one of those things that's totally objective. Success for you might be a financial success. It could be a sense of connection. It could be finding a partner. It could be finally buying that property or that car. So take success with a grain of salt, but these mindset shifts are going to be relevant to all types of success, irrespective which one resonates with you this year. I know there are a lot of new faces here, so I thought I'll just quickly reintroduce myself and also mention that we are on YouTube as of 2023. So hello to everybody watching on YouTube as well. My name is Erica. I'm the host of the Balance Theory podcast, and my background is as a corporate finance lawyer. Now, I know that job description doesn't necessarily lend itself to wellness podcast, but I guess my wellness journey started when I jumped into my e-commerce business, which is in fitness accessories. The brand is called ES Fit. And that started off as a local boot camp for women in Sydney. Now, I run that with my best friend, and that was really my first taste at working with other people, sharing a journey, and doing something that really made me feel good. Now, that's no shame or hate on law, but it was obviously a very stark contrast to the skills I was using and the connections I was making. So fast forward when COVID hit in 2020, I really was craving that sense of connection with people and really just going through this self-growth journey on my own. And I thought I would open that up and share it with each of you. So this is now coming into our 3rd year of running the Balance Theory podcast. So whether you're new or you're an OG, I'm so grateful that you're here joining us for 2023 and for a topic and a conversation I think is going to be very insightful for you to jump into the year ahead. So today's mindset shifts are going to touch on a couple of things, all of which are really pertinent to the moment in time that we're at. So as I mentioned, the start of the year brings with it a lot of reflection, a lot of refresh, a lot of renewal. And a lot of the concepts or the things people think about when they are setting goals include the law of attraction. They're going through a lot of change. We're maybe even accessing or tapping into some wild dreams that we've had. But with that also comes some self-doubt and imposter syndrome, which I know firsthand how crippling that can feel. And we also need to have a conversation about habits, because when we are chasing goals or becoming the person that we need to be to achieve our goals, we are adopting and being very critical of our habits and how we're spending our time. So my 5 mindset shifts today are going to touch on all of those things, at least 2 of which I know are going to be relevant to anybody listening, no matter what part of the goal setting process you're in, no matter what success looks like for you this year. I know you're going to get a lot out of today's episode. So let's start with number 1. Something a lot of us will have thought about, heard about, maybe even try to utilize in our lives when it comes to goal setting or even manifesting, and that is the law of attraction. Now, in its simplest form, that just states that whatever you focus your energy on will come back to you. So say this year you have some goals to be a little bit healthier or a little more wealthy. You want a bit more financial abundance. And so you're choosing, per the law of attraction, to focus your energy on that, on being healthier, on being more financially abundant. I think something really important to express here, and I am going to go and do a whole deeper episode on this next week where I'm going to handhold you through goal setting. But one really key thing to note about this is by virtue of you focusing on the thing that you're desiring, so being healthier or having more money, by virtue of that focus, you're almost creating an affirmation of lack. So by virtue of you saying, I want to be healthier, that in itself is a pure expression of something you don't have. You're currently not healthy. Or if you want more money, that's stating that you currently lack an amount of money that you desire. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but I do want to offer you a gentle reframe to make this law a little bit stronger. And that requires you to shift away a little bit from the law of attraction. And of course, it in and of itself has some merits when you pair it with some actionable tips. I'm talking about just the desired piece of focusing your energy, however. I think if you shift that and you focus on something called the law of resonance instead, if you choose to utilize that in 2023, it's going to be incredibly profound. Let me just explain it to you first and then break it down as to why I think this is a really secret key for success in 2023. So the law of resonance states that the universe will resonate with who you are. And one thing I always share with the balancers is that when we set ourselves a goal or a target, we need to become the person who achieves that goal. So if you want to become healthier, you're going to need to adopt different habits, behaviors, and attitudes in and amongst the process of becoming healthier. You're not fundamentally changing who you are. You're just changing potentially the values, the habits, and the behaviors that you're currently engaging in. So that person is already within you. You just need to alter your behavior and your day-to-day routine and whatever else comes under it so that you begin reflecting as that person. The focus is that we just need to shift energetically to connect with them. And once we're connected with that person and once we're adopting those habits and, engaging with the way they would be thinking, that's what we're emitting into the universe, and that's what the universe will resonate back to us. So in a very simple way, instead of focusing your energy on what you want or diverting it towards what you want, divert it towards who you are or who you want to become and have within you. And that's how the law of resonance will work in your favor this year versus the law of attraction. The second mindset shift, which I think is going to be very powerful for us all in 2023, comes down to this idea of us changing as people. Now, when you change, inevitably you make ripples. And I want to talk about us changing in connection with our relationships. So most of us will have relationships that are based off shared values or behaviors. Now, when we change, often it's our fundamental values or behaviors that shift. So say you become a vegetarian, or you become a gym junkie, or you become an entrepreneur. Your values and priorities, the way you spend your time, all of those things shift, which, because our relationships are based on shared values and attitudes, that may create some friction with our relationships. Now, I've experienced this firsthand, especially in 2022. And so I just wanted to, number one, preface the year ahead to say that, hey, if you're going to go through some change, that may cause some friction in your relationships. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I did want to offer this as a perspective shift, so it's almost not a shock when it happens, and just provide this one insight that gave me a lot of perspective when I could have taken the situation very personally. And that is, of course, your change can inspire people, but more often than not, it may actually confront them as well. So even just think about it simply. When other people are changing or achieving all these amazing things in their life, often it creates this moment where you reflect and think about your own life, kind of how you've changed or not, or what you're doing. It's not necessarily a comparison thing. It's just more, it's like a mirror reflecting back at you. So often when you change, if that's going to confront people around you, that's because it's making them think about what they're doing or not in their life. Sometimes it's easier for people to attack you or throw shade at you or try and pull you down, rather than sit there and address where they'd like to change or make some difference in their life. So just be prepared that your change will come at a bit of friction for some of your relationships, purely because they're based off shared values and behaviors. And when you change, you're changing your values and behaviors. So inevitably, you may have and experience that friction. And if for whatever reason you have somebody who is not being your cheerleader or is just bringing a bit of negative energy into your momentum, just reframe and understand that your change isn't going to inspire everyone. And for those people in particular, it may really confront them. And they just don't know how to turn that into self-awareness, and as a byproduct may come at you directly. So that's number 2. Number 3 is this idea of dreaming, which I think we really lose as we grow up as adults. I mean, I used to daydream all the time at school, on the way to and from school. I remember just kind of getting lost in my own thoughts. But as an adult, that's kind of seen as a bit of time wasting or unproductive use of your time. But I think when we speak about dreaming, we need to give ourselves the permission to do so, to really tap in and understand what it is we want. And in the context of goal setting, which I know a lot of you listening will have set your goals for 2023, we need to be able to dream, to truly tap into our deepest desires and understand what it is that we truly want. I have a question for you. When was the last time you let yourself dream wildly, without limits, without saying, but that's an unrealistic salary, or how would you even make that amount of money, or where is that ideal partner even laying, or who are you to think that you can go to the gym all those amount of times, or change your body and your lifestyle in this way? All that negative chatter that just dampens our dreams is the opposite to what we need when it comes to goal setting. When we are sitting down to think about what we want, we need to speak from the heart, which are our deepest desires, and in my opinion, come in the form of dreams. And if we give ourselves that permission to just ideate and think without limits, we can really tap into what it is that we really want and why. That second piece is very, very important. Often we think, oh, we want all these things. But when we speak from the heart and it's a deep desire, we can understand why. Maybe it's a real deep-rooted need of connection or a sense of fulfillment or a sense of being valued or needed in society. And one thing I'll say on this, I feel like when we're really doing it properly, so when we're dreaming without boundaries, without limits, and we're not boxing ourselves into what we think is realistic or achievable, when we really dream, they're the things that scare us most. They're the things that we think, wow, I don't think in a million years I could achieve that, but I would love to achieve it. That's kind of what we're going for. So if this is something you feel would really be useful for you to tap into your goals, to really push yourself and see what boundaries you might be able to stretch in 2023, I would advise you sit down and think about your dreams in each of the area of your life. So within the balance theory framework, we talk about our health, which includes your mental and physical, your relationships, which are your family, friendships, and love life, if you have one. And the third one is your area of fulfillment. So whilst that could be your career or your business, it may also include your hobbies. If you do volunteer work, if you're doing any studies, just sit down and have a think about those different compartments of your life and write unfiltered, unscripted, the dreams you have in each of those areas. And then if you've already set your goals, have a look if you can see an alignment with the why or the driver or the desire that underpin the goals you have, or see if there's a bit of a mismatch. See if you've kind of really boxed yourself in when setting your goals, and use that as a springboard to maybe edit them and aim a little bit higher. See what you can want for yourself. Don't limit yourself, because if I learned anything in 2022, it's that we are our own obstacles, and we are the one thing that often stands in our way the most. If you haven't set your goals, what you can do is really use this as a springboard or a compass, a bit of a direction to show you what it is that you actually want. So when you take away self-judgment, societal expectations, any blueprints to people who have gone before you or other people in your family, you can really see what it is that you want without the noise of the external world. And this is going to be really useful for our episode next week, where I show you how to actually construct your goals in a way that you can achieve all the things you want whilst avoiding burnout and making sure you're maintaining a really balanced and healthy lifestyle. So come back for that one if that's something you're interested in, but start here. Start with the dreams and give yourself permission to dream. Number 4 is a big one that a lot of people experience. And if this is something that you're experiencing, I don't want you to think that there's something wrong with you. And what I'm talking about is self-doubt, imposter syndrome, anything that falls under that umbrella, self-judgment. It's that feeling of apprehension, of feeling that we're not good enough to do something, of feeling like an imposter when we achieve things, of feeling like you almost faked it and no one's really realizing that you're just winging your way through life. That feeling relates very closely to a sense of fear. We have this fear that we're not good enough, or that our achievements are not worthy, or that we need to do more to feel fulfilled. Or even before all of that, we have this crippling fear that stops us from even getting started, this self-doubt that weighs us down before we even give ourselves the opportunity to explore if we're even good at the thing we want to try. It sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud, but I know how stifling and how much of a plateau it can throw you in. So I want to offer a little bit of a mindset shift when it comes to fear or self-doubt or imposter syndrome, whatever's resonated with you. And one thing I've realized is it's seasonal. So it's not one of those things where you kind of get over it and then you never experience it again. For me, and this has been the way I've reframed it to really help me kind of move beyond it, is it's an indication that you're trying something new for the first time. You are outside of your comfort zone. And so of course, every time you try something new or you push a boundary, you aim for something different, you pull yourself outside of your comfort zone, that uncertainty or that fear or that self-doubt is going to come up. And for me, it's now a positive indication from my body to say, hey, these are uncharted waters. We've never been here before. And so of course you're going to feel a little bit off. You're going to feel unfamiliar because it's the first time you're doing it. Like, that totally makes sense. But what we do is we let that fear trap us in sometimes. We let it tell us that we're failing before we even get started, or that we've started and are doing it wrong, or because we're feeling these emotions, we should stop. when in reality, it's just an indication that we've never been here before. And that's how I like to treat self-doubt or imposter syndrome, any of those things, because I feel they do creep up and they continue to creep up every time you level up. And so for me, self-doubt, I've kind of reframed it as something that's seasonal. It pops up when we're trying something new, when we're diving into waters we've never been before. And it's just about reframing it as an indication that we've never been here before, as opposed to a sign to stop or a sign that you're failing. And one thing I'll say here is that reverse manifesting is real. So when we really sink into this self-doubt or imposter syndrome, we get stuck mentally rehearsing our deepest fears. And that's often telling ourselves that we're failures, we're not good enough, we're not worthy to do the thing that we are desiring. And so if you don't find a way to reframe this self-doubt, you may fall into a situation where you're actually reverse manifesting. You're thinking about everything that can go wrong and will go wrong. You're thinking about all the things you don't want to be, but your self-doubt has kind of pushed you to make you feel. And as a byproduct, you're turning that into a reality. So I can't stress the importance enough of working through this self-doubt, of acknowledging that it's a part of the process, but taking it as a positive signal, which, by the way, doesn't make it any more comfortable. It's still something you need to sit with, but I do find it comforting knowing that it's just a sign I'm trying something new for the first time. And that kind of gives me a little bit of empowerment as well. It's still uncomfortable, the self-doubt, but it's just about reframing so that you can work through it. I remember in one of our conversations last year, it was this idea that the most successful people experience self-doubt. The difference between them and other people who are not at their level or who haven't achieved what they want to achieve is they felt it, but got on with the job anyway, as opposed to feeling it and letting that stop them. So you can make an empowered decision to reframe your self-doubt and move on with the job anyway, or to feel it and let it stop you in your tracks, which I think would be a real shame to all your deepest desires and dreams. All right, the last mindset shift I think we all need for success in 2023 comes down to our habits. So especially when we talk about goal setting next week, and just in general, when you want a new goal, it's going to require you to think very, very critically about your habits, how you're spending your time, how you need to be spending your time, and things you need to shift. And depending on how many habits you have, this can be super overwhelming. So it can often feel like you have a massive list of things you want to change. And don't get me wrong, you're probably motivated and have an action plan to do them all. But I think where we go wrong is trying to do them all at once, or even multiple at once. I think multitasking when it comes to habits is a no-no. Unless we're habit stacking, which is you already have a habit that you're used to, say brushing your teeth every morning, and you want to incorporate deep belly breaths throughout the day, you choose to partner that habit on top of a habit you've already got. That's fine. What I'm talking about as a no-no is trying to add 2 new habits at the same time. So the trouble is, as we know, it takes a good amount of time for a habit to kick in. I think the average is somewhere around 60 to 70 days. So let's just say 2 to 3 months is the sweet spot. If you have competing time for each of your habits, or you're splitting your energy across each of your habits that are new, that require a decent amount of energy, it's almost like you're pouring less into each habit and not actually giving your body time to adjust. I feel, and this is obviously depending on the habit, if it's something really small, like putting your clothes away before you go to bed, or I don't know, something random or nuanced around the house, it's a bit different. But big lifestyle shifts like planning all of your meals or going to the gym 5 days a week from going 0 days a week, those things we need to give ourselves time and we need to give it full attention. So if you have a list of habits that you want to adopt or change in 2023, I would structure them in a hierarchy. I'd go from most important to least important. That's obviously going to be very dependent on what your goals are and your why, because each habit is going to require a certain amount of energy from you. If you weren't raised with financial abundance, for example, and you want to get your finances in order, that's going to take a lot of mental energy because it's going to require you to do a lot of work on your mindset to work out how to be financially abundant and have habits around that. And so trying to do that and then also trying to, kickstart a health regime, that's a lot of energy that you're committing. And so I think for the most success, pick the most important thing to start with. And once that feels like it's an automatic part of your day or your routine, then you can move into adopting other habits one by one. So balances, those are my 5 mindset shifts that I think are necessary for success in 2023. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below if any of these resonated with you personally. If you haven't already subscribed or liked this video, I'd really appreciate it as it helps us reach more and more balances. We are on both Spotify, Apple, and a whole other range of podcast platforms if you prefer to listen to this in an audio format. I'll pop all the links below. But I just want to thank you for spending your time with me. I know it's still festive season for a lot of people. It's still holiday mode. And I'm just really grateful that everybody here listening is investing in themselves in 2023, is trying to work out the most viable way to achieve what they want and do it in a way that makes most sense for them and helps them grow as a person. So I'm truly honored that you're sharing this self-growth journey with me, and I'm so excited for the year ahead. I have so many things planned, but true to my advice, I'm doing one thing at a time. So you'll have to stay tuned for all the rollout things I've got planned. But be sure to link up with us on Instagram and TikTok as well. I'm always posting ideas and trying to spark some conversation there. The links are in the notes below. But just before I let you go, two very important things. The first, I'm all about sharing knowledge. I mean, it's great when we hear it and we empower ourselves, but when we can offer that to a loved one or a friend, it's such a beautiful experience. So if this conversation has resonated with you and you have someone in mind who would also greatly benefit from these mindset shifts for success in 2023, forward it onto them now, because knowledge is great when we hear it, but it's even better when we share it. The second thing is make sure that, this is irrespective if you've already set your goals or you're planning on setting your goals up for the year, make sure you come back and listen to the episode next week, because I'm going to handhold you through how to set them up for the most success this year. So this is particularly important for people who have in the past tried setting goals and feel like they've failed or they kind of forget about them.